What is up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks so much for being here, for being subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this beautifully honest reaction. All right, guys. I saw this video from this guy. I'm subscribed to his channel, Spencercornelia, and huge YouTuber. He shares a lot of information regarding real estate and things like that. And he exposes some frauds in the industry. And he just recently did a video asking the question, is djenvy going to prison? Now, some of you have heard about djenvy from the Breakfast Club and how he has been sued and has been accused along with his partner. Now he's trying to claim it's not his partner, Cesarpina, of defrauding people in the real estate game. And if you are aware, he claims that he's made millions and millions of dollars in real estate. But listen, guys, there's a lot going down and there's more to be revealed. But when I saw this video and I just was listening to this is even bigger than I even thought, because right now things are happening civilly where he has been sued. He's filed a motion to dismiss lawsuits against him, as well as he has claimed that Cesarpina has also defrauded him out of $500,000. I don't believe that. I just don't. That's my personal opinion. I don't believe that he was defrauded by this guy for $500,000. If he was, then why hasn't he sued this man? He's suing other people. He sued Tony the closer, for one, for talking about it and saying some things about it. And, he wants to sue him for defamation, but you're not going to sue, you're not going to sue someone who stole your money or defrauded you and you know it for $500,000. Like, that is absolutely insane to me. So that's one of the reasons why I don't believe his story. But based on this information that's come out, it's possible that this could get to a place of being in the criminal courts. So let's just get into this commentary.
First video I made covering this story went crazy. Many of you are saying Caesar should be in prison. Some of you want djenvy in prison too. After releasing the video, it fully hit me how large this Ponzi scheme is. After a few more victims sent me DMs on Instagram stating they lost a combined $700,000 to Caesar, I realized this is far bigger than I imagined. I even interviewed a real estate attorney based in New Jersey to help assist in understanding what's next in this case. Are Cesarpina and djenvy going to end up in prison? So far, only civil lawsuits have been filed against Cesarpina and djenvy. Why haven't we seen any criminal charges yet?
Well, obviously the government still needs to investigate the case. Before they come forward with charges, they're going to investigate the case in graphic detail. They're going to get as much evidence as they can. They're going to compile it together, and then they're going to move forward guns blazing. They're going to speak to every victim. They're going to speak to attorneys. They're going to gather information. They're going to get all evidence that they have that they can use against them. They're going to have it ready before they move forward with their case.
Unfortunately, it takes time for the federal authorities to gather substantial evidence necessary to win in court, but Caesar's time is coming. Seeing my dreams unfold, nightmares come true, it was time to marry my prison cell, and I said, yeah, I do. Here's djenvy daydreaming about being innocent in this Ponzi scheme.
So really, I think the question is going to rely on, did he know that this was a scheme, and did he use his public influence to perpetuate that scheme? That's going to be the question.
All right, so you heard that. Now, yeah, it takes time for the investigators to compile all of the evidence to present a case to bring about charges. And this is like major, you know what I mean? And even if it didn't get to a criminal place, I'm not saying someone gets fired because you have civil lawsuits filed against you, but he has a very public image, and he has had that man who has been accused of defrauding people on the Breakfast Club so many times and has been working with him, partnered with him. that's not a good look for iHeartRadio. So I also have the question, will he eventually get terminated from that radio station? I don't know, because as you know, Charlemagne, he has been accused of sexual assault against someone, and he's still employed there. So I don't know. But again, it begs to question, because if all of these people are coming out and saying, yeah, I was defrauded out of this, I was defrauded out of that, and he's attached to that, that's also a bad look for iHeartRadio as well and the Breakfast Club.
Lawsuits, everything gets exposed to the public.
Through those lawsuits, there's going to be something called discovery. And discovery is when depositions are conducted, notice to produce documents are sent out, requests for admissions, interrogatories. That's when both sides are trying to compile as much information as possible on exactly what happened. And through the discovery process, people learn things.
I have a theory. I think the reason why Envy hasn't publicly blasted Caesar yet is because he needs Caesar to stay quiet about his involvement. One of the victims just sent me this image. Caesar put all of his Ohio houses in his daughter's name a couple weeks ago on August 9th.
Wow. Talk about fraud. You know, that is absolutely insane, but it also makes sense at the same time, because Spencer said, my guess is the reason that DJ Envy hasn't said anything publicly negative about Cesarpina is because he wants to keep Cesarpina quiet about his involvement. That makes so much sense. And also makes sense as to why he hasn't sued him, right?
Caesar deleted his Instagram last night, and I've been told he's on the run.
I think right now, a case against Caesar is much more obvious than a case against DJ Envy. Looking at it kind of from a legal point of view, vantage point, I think it's going to be a hard case for them to prove that DJ Envy knew about this and was perpetuating it.
DJ Envy claims to have lost a significant amount of money in the Taylor Court Apartments deal and had no knowledge of the scheme. But he also had an office next door to Caesar for years. In the first video, I described how numerous investors came to Caesar's office demanding their payment back. DJ Envy is trying to convince us that he had no idea numerous investors were storming into the office next to his demanding money. And you were still promoting Caesar when your multi-million-dollar project that was supposed to be underway for 3 years looked like this?
If he had no idea, and there is obviously question to that because he was an investor himself and he is owed money by Caesar. I think it's about $500,000, something like that. So I think that kind of furthers his point that he had no clue that this was going on, that he in fact made money from initial investments. And based off that happening, based off making that money, he kind of pushed this idea that you can invest in real estate, flip homes, make money. And people relied on those representations. But in order for him to have accountability here is if he knew about it and continued to push it, if continued to promote him.
Caesar paid Envy early in the scheme so that he would then promote that the investment was legit. It never was, and the signs were pretty obvious. The two victims that just reached out to me both believe that Envy was taking a percentage of the profits. My current position right now is that at some point Envy knew everything wasn't good and still promoted and received a profit.
I agree. Again, just my opinion based on the observation of things that have come out. But I don't know. I don't know about him personally. Well, I mean, I don't know him personally, obviously. But my grandmother had an old statement: if you lie, you cheat, and if you cheat, you steal. We all know that he cheated on his wife, right? So, you can say, oh, this is separate, this is business. Listen, that speaks to integrity. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see him as an upstanding individual that's like, oh my God, this is going on, I don't want any parts of it. Like, he would have already cut himself off from this person. I believe he was aware. I do. And also I believe that he thought that things wouldn't get found out or things would turn around. Like a lot of Ponzi schemes are. They are hoping, not all, some are just straight up criminals from the outset of it all. But I do believe with some of them, they had good intentions and hoping that things are going to turn around at some point in time. And then the investors will get a return on their investment and people will make a profit because they want to keep making money. It won't do them any good if it all comes to a sudden end. You know what I mean? Like this pretty much has. And now Cesarpina has put all of his properties in his daughter's name and he's on the run, shut down his Instagram and all of this other stuff.
means he likely has real liability here. Caesar promoted 30% returns in 6 months, which is already a huge red flag. Anyone who knows real estate knows that it actually makes 0 sense for Caesar to offer this. If he was as experienced and legitimate as he claims, he could borrow hard money at 10 to 14% a year. Why give the investors 30% every 6 months if you can borrow for half that over the full year? DJ Envy promoted Caesar for multiple years to millions of people on his radio show and Instagram. He shared the stage with him at seminars. He had a team handling attendees' information to upsell them into investment opportunities at the seminars. Caesar was then promoting investment opportunities to these attendees at an office next door to Envy. Envy is trying to convince us that he lent out his credibility and reputation to a criminal and scammer to millions of people and didn't make $1 off of that? Come on, man. Caesar wants his phone number hidden from the feds right now since they're probably starting to call him. If you want your personal data, phone number, and personal address hidden as well, I have the perfect solution for you. Incogni is on your side for helping remove your information from data brokers. Just a couple weeks ago, I received a letter in the mail indicating that my personal information had been leaked. You don't realize how big of a deal this is until it happens to you. The number of victims impacted, $422.1 million, increased by almost 41.5% from 2021. What's frightening is how often our data is being used against us. This chart highlights just how many large-scale data breaches there were last year. Back to the video. The key element in this case is, when did Envy realize this investment opportunity was a Ponzi scheme?
If DJ Envy had no idea that this was going on, and like I said, he appears to be, on its face, a victim himself, then everything should be fine. But if he did know, and there came a crossroad where maybe at one point he didn't, and he found out that this was a Ponzi scheme, and that he was still perpetuating this narrative that make 25, 30, 35% in 5, 6, 7, 8 months, then there's a problem for him.
During discovery of the civil cases and during the inevitable criminal cases for Caesar, we're going to find out when DJ Envy knew that this investment opportunity was not legitimate and what his behavior was after. So what happens if Envy knew and still promoted the opportunity?
It could very well be the same liability that Caesar has. They can tie them in both together. They can be charged both for the same crime.
For my teachers that said I wouldn't make it here, I scam a day what you make a year. Might get hit with the RICO. Let's do a quick breakdown of what type of crime Caesar committed. Caesar was acquiring commercial loans on properties and raising money from investors for the same property. Not disclosing that fact to investors is fraud, and taking a loan for renovations and never even renovating the property is mortgage fraud. Receiving money via wire from investors is also a crime. Can you guess which one?
If money was wired into an account that was supposed to be used for an investment, but it wasn't, and the person who sent the money relied on that representation, now you have wire fraud. You know, a lot of people don't know, when you have a wire fraud case, every single wire is a charge. Every single exchange of funds is a charge. That's a separate charge. And every charge carries years in prison.
From what I've seen, I'm convinced that Caesar committed over 100 crimes in this scheme. Here's one I didn't even think of before.
It could be as simple as an IRS issue where he took money that was supposed to be invested for a project in Patterson, but then took that money and used it to buy a car or use it to buy a personal item. And he didn't declare that income on his tax return.
And listen, there are all those pictures of Caesar and DJ Envy in front of these flashy cars and things like that. So, I don't know. It's not looking good.
Did that one time, okay, you could make the excuse that I didn't know, I wasn't aware that I had to report that. But if the IRS can prove that this was systematic, that he did it over and over again, and he failed to declare income, that's tax evasion. You can go to prison just for that.
The Pinas were still living in their Franklin Lakes mansion this summer despite their first and second mortgages going into default. I would not be surprised if they falsified tax returns to acquire loans for the sole purpose of taking the money. Add another charge to the crime scoreboard. We know that Caesar was signing joint venture agreements with the investors, which left them unprotected.
These situations, these were all, for the most part, unsecured. It was just a joint venture agreement. So it was person investing money with Caesar, okay, his company. That company would use that money to do X, Y, and Z. And in 5 months, 6 months, here's how much he would make back. I think most people just wanted to know, okay, I'm giving you $200,000. How much are you giving me back? But it's not that simple. Attorneys are trained to think worst case scenario. But I think when people sign these agreements, they thought best case scenario. My best case scenario is I'm going to give this guy $100,000. He's going to give me back $135,000. That's 35%. I don't know of anything providing those type of returns right now. I don't know of a single investment. So when he presented these agreements, I think he presented it to them in a way of, look, I have this property. Here's this house. Give me $100,000. I've done it before. I did it for this person. I did it for DJ Envy. Look how much he made. And they relied on that representation. And that's where you come to the question of fraud. Was this fraud? I'm not saying it was, but that's the question that needs to be answered.
The major mistake that investors made was giving Caesar money without having their money secured by anything. When you flip houses and need money for the purchase and renovation, you acquire a hard money loan. The lenders place a lien on the property, and if you don't pay them back according to the terms of the agreement, they can foreclose on you and recoup their money through the sale of the asset. These investors didn't have a lien on the property, so they didn't actually own anything. It was just a signed piece of paper with Caesar, essentially.
When it's a secured transaction, literally, if you don't get your money back, you can foreclose, you can file an action for specific performance. You can go to the court and say, I lent my money to this investor to rehab this property. He owns the property, but he hasn't rehabbed it. Please force the sale of this property so I can get back my money. Or you can foreclose on the mortgage and have the property go up for a sheriff sale. When it does sell, you'll get back your money then. But that's not what happened here. This was, here's $100,000. Let me know when my 135 is ready.
And that's crazy. I mean, who does business like that? Now, people can say these people are stupid or crazy or whatever, and those things might actually be true. Because you just don't do, you don't do business that way. Who's giving someone $100,000 in cash, especially for an investment in real estate? It's absolutely insane. But it still doesn't make what these people did right. You know, Caesar and DJ Envy being involved, even though now he's trying to wash his hands of the situation, back away and say, I had no knowledge. I didn't, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys that, listen, I'm not trying to call him a monkey, but that is that old thing. It was like from years ago, a cartoon or whatever. And he's trying to disassociate himself from the situation, but I don't know. It just doesn't look like he was unaware of what was going on. It doesn't look like he was just merely the face and the name of recognition that people knew about that would prompt people to want to get in this good investment situation so that they can get 35% returns.
Obviously, there's a lot of people that were damaged by this. So now they have to go run to the courthouse and file a lawsuit in something called the Law Division.
I don't know what you heard about me, but my investors can't get $1 out of me. No Cadillacs or investment dollars you won't see. In prison, my ass cheeks are going to CLAP. Caesar is facing numerous civil lawsuits and likely will be facing criminal complaints soon. Now let's discuss how the victims can get paid back.
They could win a couple ways. They could win by technicality if they don't answer discovery or something like that. They could win on summary judgment, basically saying, hey, court, there's no dispute here. If you take everything that we say as fact and you view it in the light most favorable to the defendant, I still win. And the court could issue a summary judgment. Or it can go to trial and you can get a judgment and the judge can rule in your favor. But all that is, like what I was telling you earlier, it's a piece of paper that says Caesar owes me this much. That's it.
An unfortunate reality for victims in Ponzi schemes like this one is that collecting becomes the next problem. You can have a signed contract with Caesar and be able to win a lawsuit, but if he doesn't have any money, you don't have any money to collect.
Now you have to go collect on that piece of paper. And that's what a lot of people, they don't realize. They think that the judge is going to go out there and turn Caesar upside down and shake him from his pants and the money. No, that's not going to happen.
Not all hope is lost. Given that Caesar does own some of these properties without a mortgage, there is a way to force a sale.
If they can prove the money they invested was going to be used specifically for a property and that property isn't liened or encumbered, they can file a specific performance suit and force the sale of that property. But again, who owns the property? Are there liens? Are there tax liens? We don't know.
Many of these investors likely signed up thinking Caesar owned $50 million in real estate. If things go wrong, he could sell a property and pay the victims back, right? Well, maybe not.
Said, I have $50 million in real estate. But what does that mean? Does he have $50 million in real estate and $70 million in mortgages? We don't know. You can have $1 billion in real estate. But if the properties aren't worth more than what you owe on them or more than what the liens are, it could very well be in the negative. So he could have $50 million in real estate, but a $20 million negative net worth.
Since the last video was released, another lawsuit has been filed against Caesar. Ruddy Rodriguez filed a complaint alleging Caesar took $100,000 for the 523 Park Ave property that probably sounds familiar to a lot of you by now. Additionally, 3 new investors reached out to me privately sharing they've lost a combined $700,000 that I haven't reported on. Correction, I just had another 3 reach out to me totaling an additional $2.4 million in losses.
Do you hear that? And with that amount of money that people have invested, you mean to tell me DJ Envy was unaware? I don't believe that.
It's entirely possible that Caesar's real estate empire was built on investor money in the Ponzi scheme. This is Jenny Tips, Caesar's wife. One of Jenny's close friends is this woman named Teresa Giudice. On March 4th, 2014, Teresa and her husband Joe entered a guilty plea to 41 counts of fraud following a deal struck with federal prosecutors. The couple was accused of engaging in bank, mail, wire, and bankruptcy fraud, which allegedly saw them net over $5 million over a 10-year period. That sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? Their conversations probably go like this. Hey, Jenny, has your husband committed more felonies than my husband yet? Haha, girl, my hubby has yours beat by a long shot. Jenny, if you ever need help with navigating prison after committing fraud, I'll be glad to help. Caesar and Jennifer are going to start collecting default judgments with all of the victims lining up. Here's what could happen.
Now, if you do get a judgment, in New Jersey, the process is you could serve something called an information subpoena. And you could say, hey, defendant, I have a judgment against you. You owe me $1 million. I need to know where are your bank accounts, how many cars you have, do you own any jewelry? I need a list of all the real estate that you own, any companies that you have a holding in, all this financial information. Most defendants either ignore it or they don't want to answer it, or they answer it incorrectly, or they answer it incomplete. If that happens, the plaintiffs could actually file a request for the defendant's arrest. If that warrant is signed by a judge in a civil court, they're not going to go and issue an arrest warrant and go to his house and arrest him. But if he's pulled over and he's flagged to have a warrant under failure to respond to an information subpoena, they could arrest him. And again, these aren't criminal charges, but force him to answer that subpoena.
Caesar appears to be avoiding the civil lawsuits. I asked Peter if he could do this.
Civilly, of course. He let it all go into default, get all these judgments, and then go file bankruptcy.
Caesar spent years claiming to be a real estate mogul, but now that it's time to pay his debts, he went ghost.
And to rewind just a little bit, you heard what he said about Teresa Giudice, however she's pronouncing it. Well, she's not a Giudice anymore because she divorced him and got remarried to that lunatic, got married to another, in my personal opinion, fraud. But the Pinas have the connections to Joe and Teresa, who went to prison for mortgage fraud and other things, right? And so the degrees of separation are not that thick. And listen, guys, this rabbit hole seems to be just going a lot deeper than I even anticipated.
He owns properties, so hopefully these will be forced sales and money goes to the victims.
I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, but I know from experience through real estate litigation, there is a nuance with bankruptcy where if the debt that you owe was a result of a fraud, meaning you took on that debt knowing that you might file bankruptcy or knowing you couldn't pay off that debt, it could become non-dischargeable in bankruptcy.
All of this is the least of Caesar and Jenny's worries. The feds are surely investigating by now, which means it's almost over for them. This is clearly a fraud scheme, and they'll have no problem building a strong case against them.
So listen, guys, I have a link to the video if you want to check it out and watch it in the description box. But listen, this is really, really deep. I've been listening to and watching this information for a little minute now. I've been checking out what happened to Common Sense and Pocket Watching with JT, and now Spencercornelia, he's talking about it too. And just to hear how many people and how much money has been defrauded from people is ridiculous. Will it get to the point of prison for DJ Envy? I don't know. It's possible, and then it's possible that it may not, but it takes time for investigations to get thoroughly done and completed. And, you know, they have so many other things going on as well. And unfortunately, This isn't like he took someone's life. Some people's money got taken, and even though that's serious, it's not something that is life or death for them, where these people, they're out of money. They're not out of a son or a daughter or a family member that was taken out, right? And so, yeah, they're going to take their time with this investigation. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. But listen, guys, I would really love to know what your thoughts are. Do you feel that DJ Envy was way more involved in this than he wants to have it appear? And do you believe that it could get to the point of prison for him? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for being here, for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.